All right, welcome. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to this live demo session on SAP UI5 and Fiori training with me, Anubhav. Welcome to this new year and this new live session on SAP UI5 with Business Application Studio and VS Code. In this live demo session today, we are going to look at what will be the agenda of this training. What can you expect in the next 40 hours of this training journey on SAP UI5, followed by a quick demo in the live system, and then most importantly, your questions and my answers. So let's get started and understand what would be the agenda of this live demo session today. My name is Anubhav. I have total 20 years of experience in the field of SAP, and I'm training on SAP UI5 since last 10 years. I've trained thousands of consultants on SAP UI5 and Fiori, including the development tools like Eclipse, Web IDE, VS Code, and Business Application Studio on BTP. This training is specially designed for all of you to train you and make you an expert on SAP UI5. In our today's session, we will see first, who is this course for? What would be the overview of this training? What can you expect? Our demo use case, followed by FAQs and live question and answers from your side. So let's try and understand who's this training for. You can map this training from one of these developer personas with your current job profile with regard to this training. If you're working like a UX designer like Max, who's currently involved himself into the UX design only, where he's designing mock-ups for his client to give them a better user experience, but would willing to venture into the real true development, then this training is going to help you. If you are a college fresher like UE, just out of the college, have zero experience on SAP, have zero experience on UI5, and you aspire to become an SAP full stack developer, this training is also going to help you. If you're working like a technical advocate in the industry, in one of the UI technologies, be it SAP's dialog programming or WebDyn Pro programming, or as a open source developer, UI developer like React or Angular, but you're willing to start development on SAP's UI5, then this training is also going to help you. Finally, if you're working like an application developer, truly in an SAP product like S4HANA or SAP ABAP systems, and currently involving yourself into the ABAP world, but willing to venture into the true development with Fiori and become an expert on Fiori with on ECC and S4HANA system, this training is also going to help you. So all in all, anyone who have little bit of coding experience, little bit of programming knowledge and enthusiast about programming and building user interfaces, this overall training is going to help you a lot in your career, which is going to also help you doubling your salary in the coming weeks and months. Having said that, let's understand what can you expect in this next 40 hours of this journey. The entire journey is split into 4 phases. In the first phase, we will start with fundamentals. As most of you come from SAP ABAP background or SAP's other functional or non-functional backgrounds, you may not have worked extensively on the web development. So we are first going to start how to do web-based applications, introducing to you the core concepts of HTML, CSS, JS, and jQuery, including the development tool like Business Application Studio and VS Code. This will be our first topic in the journey. In the second phase, we're going to trigger SAP UI5, where you understand the framework provided by SAP, including software development kit, so-called SDK, and build a fully ready model view controller architecture based application. In the phase 3, we will start true Fiori development using SAP's mobile library with latest concepts like manifest, router, routing, controller, component JS, fragments, formatters, and many more. In the very last phase, you will see how to expose your real ERP data like material, orders through a OData service in ERP system like S4HANA. Then finally consuming this data into the Fiori application, understanding the complete process from design to development to testing to deployment to taking your app to the production system. Just a main markup statement of this training. This course is designed for an absolute beginner who is a college fresher, who is an app developer, who have never worked on UI5, yet aspire to become and transform their dialog programs, WebDin programs, or build fresh SAP Fiori applications in their journey. This training is going to help you end to end. I don't expect you to have any prior experience or any prior knowledge on anything, because this training is designed for a college fresher also. A college fresher can also learn this, join this training and become an SAP UI5 developer. So what do we do today? In our today's demo session, we are going to first start our development tool, which is called Business Application Studio. Then we will create our first UI5 project with no copy paste approach, and that will be the approach throughout this journey. We will understand the MVC architecture and create a simple application. And finally, we will test our application in the browser. So that will be the flow of our today's demo session. It's a demo session. So you can just understand my teaching style, what will be the approach overall, and most importantly, your questions are important for me. What do you expect from my side in this journey that we will be discussing at the end? So let's start first a bit of theory on what is SAP UI5, setting up a bit of context. So what is SAP UI5? Let's try and understand. SAP UI5 is a framework to develop responsive web application. So it's a framework to develop responsive web application. It's a very simple definition. Tomorrow, if your manager asks you during the lunch or during the breakfast, you can simply give this one sweet definition. Even in the interviews, we will be discussing all the interview questions as well as part of the training. So what's a framework then? A framework is nothing but it's a collection of libraries. What's a library? A library is nothing but it's a collection of classes. What's a class? A class is nothing but it's a collection of attributes, functions, events, etc. So all in all, you are living in 21st century where the time is gone. You write every part of application yourself. These days in this modern world, we are using frameworks to quickly leverage what is already offered by the framework, reuse them and build our applications. Then we have responsive. What is responsive? Responsive is nothing but a web application which adapt itself according to the device, which means you code it only once. You don't have to write coding again for mobile, again for tablet. You build application only once, you write code only once, and this application is responsive. It automatically adapt itself according to the mobile device, according to the tablet. So that is what the application is going to do for us automatically. So this is the great benefit you get when we use UI5, and this is where UI5 is much advanced as compared to its predecessors like WebDin Pro or dialog programs. So if you look at classic ABAP applications, they can't work on mobile phones automatically. In fact, GUI cannot be even installed on the mobile device. Now, whenever you talk about developing application, you always think about a approach. So what would be our approach of development? So we are software developers. We are not college student. So we have to also think about an approach of building our application. So when it comes to SAP UI5 development, our approach of building application is called MVC approach, Model View Controller approach. According to Model View Controller, it's an architecture which we all follow. It constitutes of three important blocks. Yeah, these blocks supposed to be M, V, and C. Yeah, so we'll have three blocks: M, V, and C block. So the M stands for model, that represents the data of our application. Then V stands for view, that represents the screen of the application. And then we have the controller. The controller represents the processing logic, where all the processing logic is written. So whenever we work with this kind of an application, we always start with the view. So our user will always see the view first. Our user will always interact with the view. So first of all, our user will be interacting with the screen, the view. And whenever user will see a view, a screen, what ultimately they do, let's say for example, on this view, we have a button. Now user click the button. When user click the button, an activity is performed. This activity will trigger a event, and this event will eventually trigger a event handler. A event handler is nothing but it's a function written inside our controller as a processing logic. And then as a result of it, what the processing logic or the controller does, it will also need to read some data. So then it will go and modifies the data, let's say. And once the modification on the data is done, the model will notify the controller that I have modified the data you requested, and this data will then sent back to the view, to the screen. So then the screen will get updated and user will see the modified data. So this is the typical process of model view controller architecture, MVC architecture. We will be following that in our journey because we are software developers. In addition, we also have a direct connectivity between model and the view also. This concept is called binding or called data binding. We will also be discussing, as this is a very important part of our training journey, in session number 3, 4 and 5. So you have to stay tuned with my training to look at this entire journey. But to just keep this demo simple and easy for you, I will just show you a very simple use case today to create our application. Then comes is the process of building our application. So before we start building any application, we need a tool. So the tool which we use to build Fiori application is called SAP Business Application Studio. In the next class tomorrow, I will show you how to set up the BAS tool in your laptop free of cost. But for demo session today, I already set up that. So we always go back to the BAS tool here, and here is where we are going to start our journey. Here is where we're going to launch the BAS tool. So for demo session, I've already prepared it, and tomorrow I will show you how can you get it, and then you can start building your project. So every time you create a project, there are certain steps you need to follow. So let me go to my PPT again and show you these steps which we need to follow to create a project. I will be spoon feeding these steps as a beginner to all of you, so you all get very comfortable in building the Fiori applications. So step number 1, what will be my step number 1 is to create a new folder, new project folder in the tool. Then we need to create a web app folder, yes, inside which we will add a file called manifest.json. Manifest.json is an important file which is actually going to contain the project information. Yeah, the file which contain the project information, like the project ID, name, type, version, all this information we must have to have it documented in a file. Once we are done with this, we will write some command, we will use some command to initialize our project. And these commands include the npm init command to first initialize a project with the dependency and then tell the computer that this is a UI5 project. It's not a normal project. So for that, we will run a UI5 init command also. So let's go back to the system and follow this process. I'm going to come back and I first create a folder. Let's call it as UI5 demo. I'll zoom a bit so you can see easily. And then in this, we will create a web app folder as per the second step. Under that, we create a file called manifest.json file where we specify our project properties to tell the computer what type of project it is and what's the ID of my project. So we say it's a SAP application, yes, which has a ID, and I can give an ID of my application now. So I can give any ID of my choice. So let's say I give my name as Anubhav. That's the ID of my project. Then I will say, what's the type of the project? It's an application. So you can build a plugin, you can build a library, you can build variety of projects. So ours is a application. So this is bare minimum information as a developer you must have to provide in order to create a application, in order to create a web application, a Fiori application for the first time in your journey. So that is something which is mandatory. You must have to provide that. Now, once that information is fed to the computer, our next step will be to create, initialize this project, as I mentioned earlier. So for that, you need to open a terminal and run a couple of commands to initialize this project. So I have to come to projects directory. Now I have to go to my UI5 demo directory. So I use a command cd command, change directory, UI5 demo, and then I will say npm init. And it's going to ask me a couple of questions. What's your project name? What's your project type? What's a version? So this is more of a documentation you're maintaining. So I just keep pressing enter key. I don't provide any more details. I just keep pressing the enter key over there when it comes to building my project. So that's what I'm doing. Yes. So I just quickly create a enter key to create my project. Now, next thing is what I will do is I will do a UI5 init command. UI5 init command will responsibly mark this project as a UI5 project. It's not a normal project. So I say UI5 init. So this will initialize my project as a UI5 project. Yeah, that's what computer is going to do. So you can see it created this UI5 YAML file, which is marking this project. So tomorrow, maybe down the line after 6 months, when you come back and you look at this project, you may be wondering, what is the project type? Is this project a ABAP project or is it a Java project? Yeah, then you can always see, okay, there's a UI5 YAML file, which means it's a UI5 project. It's a Fiori application. So that is how the steps we must have to follow. These are the guidelines provided by SAP when it comes to building your application. So you can see we did these 3 steps. We created a new project. We created a web app folder. Then we have created this description file about our application, what our application name and ID is. Then we have specified 2 commands to just initialize our project, which helps us to add dependency to our project, plus mark our project as a UI5 project. This is called UI5 tooling. We have a dedicated lecture on UI5 tooling, session number 11 in this training, where I will detailedly cover this. As is a demo session, I'm trying to keep it in a simple plain vanilla flow. Yes. Now, once this step is complete, we have to create a launcher file. Create a launcher file for our project called index.html file. And we need to load the UI5 framework. So as I told you, we have a framework, which is a collection of libraries, and the library is a collection of classes, and the classes is a collection of attributes. So here we are going to load this framework first. So to be able to load this UI5 framework, there's a special statement which we need to write to load it from internet. So when my application run, it has to load first the framework. Yeah. So I'll come back to my development tool, and here in the web app, I'll create a file, index.html. So that's the file. It's my launcher file of our application. It's a HTML file which contains HTML document with a header. Yeah, head is the brain of the HTML, and then a body. Body is the actual content. In the body, I will just add a div element with an ID called content. I can say anything I want. So this is just a placeholder to contain my UI5 controls. For example, if I create a button, so where I'm going to add that button will be added in this block. So it's a block I'm creating. It's called block level element. So there we're going to add our button. But the real game begins here in the brain of the HTML. So here, step number 1, we are going to use a script tag to load the UI5 framework. So I say source. So what we are doing here, we are loading SAP UI5 framework to use it. Yeah. So there is a URL given by SAP to load UI5 framework. It's called https ui5.sap.com/resources SAP UI core.js. This is the URL provided by SAP. Yeah, if I copy this URL and paste it here, you will see some code is coming. We don't need to understand this code, but we need to understand that's the framework. So this process or this line is called bootstrapping. What is bootstrapping? When you start your computer boot. Yeah, your computer boot. Similarly here, this is a script tag which is actually going to boot up, actually. It's going to start or load the UI5 framework for us. That's what computer is going to do for us. Now once that is done, we have data SAP UI5. So we are going to say data SAP UI libs. Remember, it's a framework. So which is the library you want to load from the framework? So we say, I want to load SAP mobile library because I want to build a Fiori application. Then the next command is data SAP UI resource root. Yes. And in this, we specify what's the address of my all the project files. So we are going to tell computer that all my project files are part of this folder called Anubhav. So Anubhav is the ID of my application. So what am I telling to the computer? That my current working directory, which is web app. Yeah. So dot slash means my current working directory of this index file. So we are in the index file. So this index file current working directory is web app. So from now on, in my entire coding, this Anubhav will be representing the web app folder because that's where I'm putting all my code. Yeah, that's why I'm going to put all my code. So we are creating an alias. This process is called creating an alias. We have told the computer that all the files which we are going to refer now will be starting with Anubhav. That's nothing but my web app directory within my code. Yeah, you can also put it web app. If that makes it easy for you, you can put it web app also. That's the name of your root folder, web app folder. You can give any name. It's called namespace concept. We are going to have 1 hour lecture only on this line, lecture number 10. Yeah, only on these 3 lines I will have 1 hour spent in our training. But as it's a demo session, I want to cover a end-to-end use case. Okay, so my next step would be to create a view. That's the screen for the user. So after we create this file and add the bootstrap code, we will create a view and initialize that view to load it. So next step is to create a view. So script tag again, writing the code, and we are now going to create a view object here. Yeah. So we are going to now create a view object over here. So we will be creating a view object. So create a view object. One second. I will say var object of view equals to new sap.ui.view. I'm just going to create a view object here. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to give the view name. And I will say my view name will be anubhav.view.main. That will be my view name. Then what will be my view type? It is going to be an XML view. Yeah, so we can specify the type of the view. So I want to create a JS view today. And then I'm going to specify the ID. So let's call it as ID. So basically what we are doing now, we're creating a view object, a brand new view object we are creating over here. So create a view object. Once the view is created, we're going to place this view in the body. So we will say object of view dot place at, and where to place this view? In this content area. Yeah, in this content area. So we are going to place this view in this content area. So ultimately a view will get created and that view will be placed in the body of our HTML page. So that's the code to create a view. But Anubhav, you have not even created this view called main. Yeah, it's not there, you see. So which means when I start my application, it will show nothing. So let me try. So I run a command called UI5 serve command to start my project now. Yeah, this is all part of UI5 tooling, which is covered in session number 9. We will have a dedicated 1-hour lecture on UI5 tooling. But for now, I'm just showing you the process end to end. So let's see. We got an application, you see, and it shows nothing. Why? Reason being, we created a view, we place it, but the real view which we are trying to create an object for, it's not there. It's not there. So Anubhav means web app directory. Under that there is a view folder. Under that there is a main view. Yeah, it's not there. So let's create it. So I'm going to create a folder, view, and under that I'm going to create a file under that folder called main view. Yes, and it's a JS view. So just like in any programming language, what do? You create a class. So to create a class, what do? You write class name, yes, definition, right? This is how you create a class in any programming language, like even in ABAP. Similarly, a view also have to follow skeleton. We have to follow certain rules of the game when we are learning any programming language. Like in C program, you start with hashtag include studio.h, right? This is the rule of the C programming, to include a library in C. Similarly, to create a view, SAP have provided a skeleton, a syntax. What is that syntax? It's called sap.ui.js view. We are creating a JavaScript view. So this is the syntax which we have to follow to create a view. And what's my address of the view? My address of the view is Anubhav folder dot view dot main. That's the address of my view. So this is the skeleton which we have to follow. And then it has two functions, standard functions, get controller name and create content. So these are the two standard functions which are part of the view, which must need to be created actually. Now actually we can avoid get controller name for simplicity. I don't want to keep it today because I don't want to create a controller or a model. I just want to take you through this demo with a simple view only, just a screen with a button. Okay, that's my goal. So we just happy with the one function called create content. This is a standard function we need to create, in which we can create our control objects like button. So let me come back again to my presentation, and as I mentioned, we will have a framework. We loaded that. Then we loaded mobile library. As you all know, in the index HTML we loaded the mobile library. Now we're going to use this mobile library to load a button actually. So let's create a button object. So we're going to create a object of button class from SAP mobile library, right? So we say it's a framework, framework has library, library have button. So now I'm going to create a button, and you see the tool is very powerful that it's giving me a simple code. It's already giving me, proposing me a code to create a button. So my life becomes super easy. Yeah, I press tab key and voila, you can see sap.mobile library. It has got a button class. It's a standard button class. I will teach you where are these classes coming from. They come from SDK, and SDK will be covered in unit number 13 in our training. So you will easily get to know, Anubhav, okay, this is the library, this is the button. Inside this button, what are the properties we have? We have a text property. We have a press event. So all this information you will get to know quite easily as and when I teach you SDK in unit number 13 in this training. Yeah. So now we created a new button class object, and we saying the button text will be click me, and whenever somebody click the button, what I want to do, I want to trigger a function, and there I will say alert, welcome to Anubhav Trainings, that I want to say. So this is my button class object. Now we will return this button object out. Yeah, so let's return that button object out. So that is the content of our view now. Fabulous, fabulous. So we are ready now. We have got a project with a view which has a button from the mobile library, and we are giving it out. So last time you saw nothing on the screen, but this time if you come back and reload, wahala, there you go. You got a button, and when you click the button, you can see welcome to Anubhav Trainings. So that's your first mobile application using SAP UI5 framework, and the framework has a library, mobile library, and the library has got a button class, and that button class is allowing you to click the button to do something, to trigger a event. The event name is press. Now if this demo overwhelm you, don't worry, we are going to cover all these things in detail as part of our training journey, very much in detail in the future. So you don't have to worry about, you know, all these things, how these things happened and all. So we're going to cover all of this as part of our training journey in detail. But before I move on further, let me answer some of the FAQs by all of you. So I have trained thousands of consultants across the globe, and they'll always, when they come to the demo, they have, you know, few follow-up questions. So let me answer these questions first of all. So the first question is, what will be the duration of this training and what are the prerequisites? So the duration of this training will be 40 hours, and there is absolutely no prerequisites to join this journey. You are a college fresher, that's enough. Yes, you're just coming out of college with a bit of programming experience on any programming language, be it C, C++, that's enough. That's enough. We don't need to have any prior knowledge or any prior experience required. Nothing. Yeah. Next, the timing doesn't suit me. Can I go with video mode training? Absolutely. Yes, you can. So you can opt for video mode training for our most recent completed batch, and you can ask your questions over the email as well. This option only applies to the people who want to fast track their learning, who want to go with their learning at a fast track basis with the self learning through the videos. So in case the timing doesn't suit you, you can go with video mode training. What tools do I need to learn and where do I get those tools? So the tools which you need to learn the UI5 will be the VS Code tool and Business Application Studio tool. These are the tools you would need to learn actually, and we will be covering these tools for you as part of training. Yes. So they are part of your training. These tools I am going to teach you. In next class, that's exactly our topic. So in tomorrow's class, I will show you how to use these tools as part of our system setup. So next, what about server access for OData in practice? So we will need the server access for real SAP server in the last 10 sessions. And I will guide you in session number 29, where you will learn how to get a OData server and how to connect that system, that SAP system of your company with our SAP SAP Fiori application which we will build. We will also be using VS Code tool. It's absolutely free for lifetime for developers. So that is also I am going to cover as part of this training, including setup and everything. Yeah. So everything we will be discussing and covering that as part of our training. Then next, will you cover real-time scenarios? Yes. So in this training, we will be covering very much the real-time scenarios, including how to build end-to-end Fiori app, which includes design, development, deployment, delivering Fiori apps to the final production system. So it's part of our training actually. I'm new to UI5. Can I learn it? Absolutely. You are a college fresher, just out of college, have zero experience on SAP. You can also learn through our training because all the web development basics, including HTML, CSS, JS, and jQuery, is part of our training journey. And that's exactly our topic for day after tomorrow, where we will begin with web development fundamentals. So we will be discussing that in our training. If I miss a class, how can I refer? So if you miss any class, you can refer it through the video recording. So every class like today's one will get recorded, and you will also have ability to watch this video recording at later point of time. Suppose you want to follow up, then you can do that. So whether you attend or not attend, we will be recording every session, and you can watch this video recording to practice later point of time. We will be sharing with you all the source code, all the material, this presentation, help guides, demo guides, everything. You will get it as part of the package so that you can learn yourself and speed up your learning to become an expert on UI5. Finally, what's the process to enroll for this training? Process is very simple. Just have to send us an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com. It is anubhavtrainings.com, and then you can join our training actually. With that, thank you so much for being part of this live demo session today from my side and my team side. A very warm welcome to you on this new year with this new live batch on SAP UI5 and Fiori. Our daily classes will be conducted from Monday to Friday, morning 7 to 8, the same time in the India time. So now I will head over back to you for your question and answers. If you do have any questions, you can always unmute your line and ask your questions. So I'm sending the email ID in the chat window. You can drop us an email if you're willing to be part of this live batch, which is starting today. Today was our demo. Tomorrow is our first session. Tomorrow we will learn how to set up VS Code and how to set up this Business Application Studio tool. What are these tools and how do you use them? How do you set up them? That we will be covering as part of our journey. Okay. So regarding the cost part and the enrollment process, you have to send an email on contact@anubhavtrainings.com. So that is the process. You need to send an email and they will let you know all the process smoothly. Our response time is very good on our from our service side. So don't worry, you will get the response very much on time. Now, questions from your end. If you have any questions on the line, please feel free to ask your questions by unmuting your line